Hannes Sjoblad.
Thank you for having me. It's so fantastic to be here at Login. Super excited. I'm here to tell you guys about biohacking and about upgrading the human body. You already had a fantastic talk this morning by one of my idols, Neil Harbison. So this is a perspective also on the same topic, but with different twists. So I have a job, a daytime job, which is to work with advising companies on tech trends. But that's not why I'm here. The reason I'm here is that in the nighttime, I'm one of the founders and the drivers of the Swedish Association of Biohackers, which is called Bionyfiken or Biocurious. And I'm here to share some of our insights from the biohacking world with you guys. Let's see if this clicker wants to cooperate. So we'll start with the big zoom out. You know this picture, right? Our solar system. We live on the third little ball from the sun, right? Little stone ball in space. Now imagine for a minute that we were aliens who have been watching this planet for some million years. What would we have seen? We would have seen a pretty stable system. We would have seen a planet that sometimes it was a little bit warmer, sometimes it was a little bit colder, but overall it's a stable system and not a lot happened. Then in the last 40 or so years, something very dramatic has begun to happen on this tiny ball of stone spinning through space. I work with a research institute which is called the Stockholm Resilience Center at Stockholm University, which works with mapping what we call Earth system changes. And here's a chart from one of their reports showing on one side here socioeconomic developments on the planet. On the other side, it's what we call Earth system changes. So big changes in the Earth systems, in the geological and the biological and ecosystem on our planet. And you see a common pattern in these curves. Something dramatic is happening. Many of them are pointing upwards. Population growth, energy usage, pollution, telecommunications. And also on the other side, the methane levels in the planet atmosphere, the rainforest reduction, what we are letting out nitrogen in our waters. So something very dramatic has happened on this planet beginning in the last 40 years, and it's just accelerating. This is why these Earth system scientists have given the time that we live in a name of its own. They call it the Anthropocene. To compare, you guys, you know the dinosaurs, they used to live in the Jurassic and Triassic, right? We live in the Anthropocene, and the Anthropocene has not been going for millions of years. It's only been going for about 150 years. And what is the definition of the Anthropocene age? Well, it's that the human species is the most powerful geological force on the planet. We humans, not very long ago, were running around wearing animal skins using stone spears. And it was not very long ago, a couple of thousand years ago. And suddenly, we are the most powerful geological force on the planet. We are transforming not just the surface of the Earth, we are transforming what is happening underground. We are transforming the chemical makeup of the oceans and the entire atmosphere and all the radiation signals that are going out from this little ball in space. So how could that happen? How could these monkeys with tools suddenly be so powerful? Well, the answer, as I'm sure many of you have already realized in your heads, is technology. Technology is what allows us to modify a whole planet. And this technology is allowing us to do a lot of things. And this technology is allowing us to giving us increasing powers to do very dramatic things. And Today you've heard talks about the exponential development of computers from previous speakers, and I just wanted to bring upon that the exponential improvement in computing capacity and the processing power we get for the same amount of money is impacting a lot of other industries and technologies. So all of these technologies here are being impacted by the improvement in computing. We see artificial intelligence and robotics are improving exponentially. We see this happening in biotechnology, and I will come back to that. We see it happening even in energy, where solar cells are on an exponential curve to become cheaper, which is a very positive development for those of us who care about this planet. Now, when we speak about this rapid technological development, people often say, okay, we're going to get smart, self-driving cars, and robots are going to take our jobs, etc. But you know what is my interest as a biohacker? It's that all these technologies, they are converging on us. What's that impact? We don't talk so much about that. But something very dramatic is happening when radical development in robotics, neuroscience, nanomaterials, and artificial intelligence, of course, it's going to impact us also in a very radical way. I'll give you some examples. But to start out, no tech presentation is complete without, of course, a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger. No tech conference is complete without a guy named Arnold, as we know here in Vilnius. We already live in the age of cyborgs. It's a fact. The only observation is that they don't look like this. They don't look like Hollywood wants us to feel them. They look more like the gentleman who was speaking here earlier today, or maybe even like these ladies. These are cyborgs. These are the real cyborgs. These are ordinary human beings who are wearing or carrying smart technology, such as pacemakers, cochlear implants, hearing aids, insulin pumps, deep brain stimulation implants, or any other smart technology inside their bodies. And what we are seeing is that together with the development in wearable technology, in medical implants, biometrics, all of these things are creating an entire ecosystem of what I call near-body technologies. And it's not just the classic health logging stuff that I'm sure many of you are aware of, the Fitbits and the Jawbones that help you with your exercise or measuring your activity, but also stuff like smart clothes. So there's this gentleman is wearing a sports shirt that was developed for the Aussie Football Championships, you know, the kind of rugby they play in Australia a year ago. And the shirt has built-in vibrators that are connected to players in the field. And when a player was tackled in the field, you could feel it as a punch in the chest when watching the game. It's a fun application, but a way of creating tele-sensing of what another person is experiencing and making it into a physical experience for you. There's also, for example, sensory enhancement. Here's a wearable that logs ultraviolet light and warns you when you had a certain units of ultraviolet radiation, so it's time to go into the shade or to put on some more sunscreen. Or there is the Soundhawk. You see this gentleman looks like a Bluetooth headset, but you know what it is? It's actually a remote hearing device that gives you superhuman hearing that would allow me to hear what this guy is whispering to that lady sitting in the corner. And there's also the very exciting technology of exoskeletons. I was meeting with a Swedish researcher on exoskeletons the other day. They had been running a long research project, and now they were taking it commercial. And he said to me, Hannes, we're going to have consumer exoskeletons as a consumer product released in the market before the end of the year. So exoskeletons, or as we also say, wearable robotics, are also radically going to give us completely new capabilities of carrying heavy loads, and people with disabilities can get out of the wheelchairs and start walking again. I'll give you some concrete examples. Personal individuals who have been impacted by this. This lady is called Joanne Milne. There are some beautiful video on YouTube about her that is worth checking out. She has been deaf all her life. She has never heard anything. And at the age of 39, she gets a cochlear implant, and there is a video when it's turned on and she can hear for the first time. And it's a very moving experience, because you can really feel that a whole new universe is opening up to her, and it's a very emotional thing to see. That something that was not possible for her to experience before is now being opened. Another example is this gentleman from the States, Larry. He, at the age of 30, he got a disease in his eye that made him completely blind. Now, more than 30 years later, he got an implant in the back of his eye that is connected to these glasses that he's wearing. You can see it's a little camera sitting between the eyes. The camera sends a signal to the implant in his eye that's connected to his optical nerve. And now, after more than 30 years, he can see the face of his wife again. Another example is this gentleman, Mark Pollock. He had an accident in 2010 where he hurt his spine, so he got lame from the waist down, confined to a wheelchair. But thanks to exoskeleton technology, he is now getting out of his wheelchair and starts to walk again with an implant connected to his spine. So these technologies, it's not Hollywood anymore. I'll give you a final example. This is a gentleman from Sweden. He's wearing an artificial arm, which is the absolutely latest generation of smart prosthetics. And for those of you who know anything about prosthetic arms and legs, you know that they used to be put on like a shoe on a stump of the arm. And you had to sit tight, and it becomes uncomfortable after a while, and you want to take it off. But with this new technology, the prosthetic arm is connected straight to the Magnus skeleton. So it doesn't fit anywhere outside. It's just a plug that sticks out, so he can click on his prosthetic arm with no change in comfort and much greater stability. And what's even better, inside this metal rod, there are all the electrodes connected to his muscles that connect to the different electronics in the arm. So just by moving his muscles straight from his brain, he can give his arm complex instructions to perform various actions. So my friends, we live in a time where, thanks to the help of technology, we can really make deaf people hear again, blind people see again, and we can make the lame walk again. Isn't it a fantastic time to be alive? I think so. And the question then comes, what about those of us who don't suffer from any of these diseases? What can we do? Well, we in the biohacker community, we are actively trying to explore that topic. So I'll tell you in a nutshell, if you're not familiar with the term. So when you heard the word hacking, you may think that hackers are guys who break into computers to steal data or money or something. But the original meaning of hacking is experimenting. What happens if I put this stuff together or write this code and the instruction for the computer to do this? And this is what we are applying, we biohackers, not on computers, but we apply the hacker ethic on biological systems. All the way from single-cell organisms to plants, animals, and Homo sapiens. And this is a worldwide movement. There are hundreds of labs, biohacker lab spaces in the world, different meetup groups, and people getting together to experiment with technology. And it's a movement that is not connected to any big companies or governments. It's really sort of an activist movement by citizens who want to educate themselves about what we can do with modern biotechnology. I think that is a very, very important perspective. So just to give you an overview, who are the biohackers and what are the different communities within biohacking? Super briefly, there are people with background in labs who know how to operate in lab environments. They have perhaps university background in doing lab work and understand these processes. There are people from the quantified self community. You know, quantified self is about measuring your own body and what you do in various ways, and then applying a scientific method to what you do, such as, for example, logging your sleep and then evaluating what happens if I drink alcohol in the evening. How does that affect my sleep patterns? And you can log the data and you can make your conclusions. I had a friend who did this test, no surprise. And he learned that if he drank less than 2 beers in the evening, it had no impact at all on his sleep. But if he had more than 2 beers, it had a significant, he lost about 22% of his deep sleep on average. So for him, that was a very interesting observation because he could then calibrate his drinking habits. And the thing with quantified self is that the insights that you make, they may not be generally applicable to everyone. I mean, what works for you doesn't work for me. So we call it's science where n equals 1. The sample size is 1, and you just understand what works for you because you don't believe that all these generalizations for the whole population are necessarily useful just for you. We also have people from the grinder community, so this community of tattoo artists and body modification artists and piercers who have a long history of doing modifications to the human body. And if you want to do modifications and you go to a doctor and say, hey doctor, I would like to put some fun stuff in my body, they're going to of course kick you out. Then you go across the street to the piercing studio. Hi guys, can you help me make some holes in my body? And they'll say, yes please, how many do you want? So find the right partners. And we have also, we are very inspired in the biohacker movement by professional athletes, in the sense that professional athletes know how to optimize their performance. And I am not a professional athlete. I just want to do a good job in the office every day. So how can I tweak exercise, nutrition, snacking, supplements, vitamins, sleep in order to have a good performance all through the day? There's a lot of things to learn from that community. So anyway, that was a broad overview of the biohacker community. And what is making us so enthusiastic about what we do right now? Well, it's about the democratization of technology. We saw that happening to computers 20, 30 years ago, when computers was something that used to be only in big companies, and suddenly they became so cheap so people could have them at home. Now that is happening to biotechnology as well. A few years ago, machines for sequencing DNA were as big as these washing machines. Now you can get them as small as a Snickers bar. And do you think it's going to end there? Very likely this trend is going to continue, and they will be even smaller, quicker, and better in just a couple of years from now, making this technology accessible to a lot more people. There is in the biohacker movement an open source movement. So people build their own equipment, they sell it online, and you can get it really cheap. You don't have to go to the biggest companies to get it. There are communities that make this stuff for you. This is, for example, something we ordered for our lab in Stockholm. You get it like an IKEA box, and you have to put it up together, and it just costs a couple of $100. Another fantastic innovation that is happening right now is this, and this is Bethan, it's another idol of mine. They have invented something they call the bento lab, a bento box, which is typical what you eat sushi in, but they have a complete DNA analysis lab that you can have in your own kitchen or garage or student room if you want to sample your colleagues or your family members and do DNA analysis on them. It's now a technology that is available to pretty much anyone. We also do some build our own equipment and try to electrical stimulation on ourselves. I'm not going to talk so much about that. But what I'm here to tell you a bit more about is a technology that I find particularly exciting. Chip implants. So I have an implant in my hand, tiny. It's about the size of a grain of rice. It's 2 by 12 millimeters. It's a glass capsule. And I put this in my hand because I wanted to see how I could make my life and my interaction with technology easier. With the observation that we carry a lot of stuff in our pockets every day. I like to call it junk. I mean, we have come to the point that we don't have to carry money in our pockets very often. We can use credit cards or other payment systems, and that is making life easier. But we still have to carry keys. We carry these other metal pieces in our pockets and our handbags. And it's a pain, especially when you forget to bring them and you have to go home to get them again. But we also carry all these plastic cards in our wallets. You have the library card and the bus card and the gym card and the whatnot card, and sometimes even the phone. And for me, the vision of getting an implant was to get rid of this stuff. And this is what I have achieved so far. So here's my hand, and here's my gym card that now when I go into the gym, I have replaced this with my implant. So I just swipe my hand at the entrance and I can walk in. My business cards are also in my hand. So if someone wants to swipe my hand with their phone, you get my contact straight into your phone. Or if you find my body in a ditch some late night here in Vilnius, you know where I belong. And the keys to unlock cupboards and stuff, you can also have this NFC function to unlock them. Key badges, obviously, for the office. Now, in the morning, I just swipe my hand at the entrance. I also use it for unlocking the copying machines, turning off the alarm, and all these things that other people in the office still use a badge for. I can also use my chip for unlocking my phone without having to type a PIN code several times a day, or to unlock my computer without having to type a password. There are also, I'm not going to go through all this, but there are various member clubs in shops, for example, to get discounts, etc. There are many places, once you start looking for them, that use NFC that you can replace with an implant. So, opening doors, obviously. A little bit more advanced user case that I'm developing is that, I'm trying to look badass here, this is a soft air gun, it's not a real gun. And what I want to show is the user case that I can put a lock in the handgun so that it's not possible for anyone who doesn't have a chip implant to use it. Now we read, fortunately you and I, we live in peaceful countries where most people don't have a gun at home, but we know there are other countries where they do. And you read about terrible accidents, like a child finding a gun and shooting a parent or similar. But with this very simple personalized identification, we can remove the risk from these things from happening, because a gun, for example, that is connected to a chip implant can only be used by that person. And just to tell you how nerdy we are in the biohacker community, we had a little workshop, we talked about different technology you could personalize, and someone said, yeah, you know, your lightsaber, you definitely don't want anyone else to use your lightsaber, right? And then we discussed this for 10 minutes, and, yeah, blah, blah. And then someone said, well, guys, are lightsabers invented yet? And we were, oh no, maybe they're not. So, I mean, but we were all in that mental space that, of course, you have lightsabers. Anyway, this also, I mean, more general uses, like me and my partner, we share the same car. And whenever she's been driving it, she's short, I'm tall, I have to readjust the seat and the mirrors. Now, if there only was a simple NFC reader in the steering wheel, simple, when I just grab the wheel to drive the car, it would adjust to my settings. I have another friend in Finland, he's put a little Raspberry Pi chip so he can start the car engine just by swiping his chip. We have also made Bitcoin payments using our implants as signing off. Then you use the implant sort of as instead of typing a PIN code. So it's a pretty cool system. We even had a gentleman using his implant, and he put his Eurobonus card, which is when Eurobonus Gold, if you're a frequent flyer with Scandinavian Airlines, that he used to go all through the airport, just swiping his implant at the different stages. Because here again, we use NFC technology. Unfortunately, Scandinavian Airlines has said they're not going to release this for public use. But I'm working to convince them that they will open it up. To give you a little bit, again, zooming out on the context of tech. So why am I a little bit worked up about implants? Well, it's because I see that something important is happening and that we are becoming surrounded by smart technology. But I'll give you some examples here. These are all three examples of when the interface between humans and technology became radically simpler. And in each of these three instances, the invention of the Windows interface for computers, the invention of browsers as a way to interact with the information on the internet, or the touchscreen smartphone, all these technologies made these interfaces made technology so much easier to access. And it brought millions of more people into the game as users. because I don't know if some of you remember what it was like to use a computer before Windows. I do, and it was a pain. We had to do it in school. And you program, and most of the time you would just get the syntax error message. And if anyone remembers what it was like to use the internet before we had browsers, did you know that you needed to know the phone number to every website you wanted to reach? And if you found it, it took 25 minutes for it to download, and then you had to click through hundreds of different files and enormous index systems to find what you want to find. It was not a very easy way to access it. But then what happens when you have these interface innovations is that suddenly a lot more people can access the technology, and this in turn gives rise to hundreds of new businesses. I mean, the whole app economy that has come out of the smartphone platform, or the browser itself have given rise to companies like Google and Yahoo and all these other internet giants that would not be possible if we didn't invent the browser as an interface. And to come to the point, I think that chip implants are really a similar type of interface between us humans and the Internet of Things, which is this exploding universe of smart technology that is surrounding us. Because the Internet of Things, it doesn't speak Swedish very well. It doesn't understand me when I try to speak to it. But the language that the Internet of Things speak are Wi-Fi, it's Bluetooth, and it's NFC. And by putting a little chip in my hand, I can really speak the language of the machines, and we avoid misunderstandings. If I'm trying to tell it in Swedish, it won't really get me right every time. But this is the language they are built to speak, and I'm now allowed and able to speak with them in their own language. So sometimes I get the question, Hannes, what's the point of getting an implant? I have fingerprints. I can identify myself already with what I have. Well, I'll tell you that this technology that we call biometrics, it's about not just fingerprints, but also, for example, face recognition, voice recognition, or retina scanning. There are a few others. It is, the problem here is that biology is messy, and machines, they want exact information. So, for example, take the human voice. We all know that the voice sounds different if you have a cold, or if you're angry, or if you have been running, for example. And how do the computer systems that use this for identification, how do they allow for this variance in my voice? Well, they have to have a relatively flexible recognition. And what this means is, because they want to recognize me every time, this means on the other side that statistically 5, 6 of you guys in this room would be able to log in using my voice because you are close enough within this variation. Additionally, biometrics is not possible to encrypt. Digital information we can encrypt. By encrypting it, we can make sure that it only reaches the right person or the right system. But with biometrics, we are broadcasting them in the open at all times. You guys have left thousands of fingerprints in here already. You have left your voices and your face recognition. We have you all on camera. And if I want to sample your voice, I'll just give you a call and say, hey, I'm selling soap. You want to buy soap? And you say, no, thank you. Can you say that again? No, thank you. Okay, then I have logged your voice, and now I use it to log into your computer. So I'm not that impressed with biometrics. It's simply too easy to catch, and the real problem is that once someone else that shouldn't have it has your biometric data, they have it for life, because it's your body. You can't change your fingerprints. Once they're out there, they're compromised forever. So be aware of this when you use biometric identification. I should also mention, I often get this question, what are the security weaknesses with chip implants? We know from a health perspective that this technology is safe. We put it in animals for more than 30 years. Thousands of humans also have these implants. But from an IT perspective, what are the weaknesses? Well, there are 3 main security dimensions. Tracking, can anyone see where I am because I have an implant? Simple answer there is no. Because these implants, they don't have any battery, they don't have the power to transmit any signal by themselves. So if I get lost in the night in Vilnius, again, you will not be able to find me because of the implant. It simply cannot send out a signal by itself. Secondly, hacking. Can someone hack into my implant? Well, the answer here is yes. It's really simple. You just have to go close to someone with a smartphone or another reader, and you can capture the data, you can read the data on the chip, and even write evil, nasty stuff on it. We had some guys from Kaspersky Labs fly into Stockholm to hack us in the biohacker community, and yes, they hacked us pretty easily. So the way to deal with this, in my view, is that what stuff do you have on your implant? Well, you shouldn't put your life secrets on an implant because it is openly readable. So think of an implant, what you put on an implant, as information that you would be okay to put on your T-shirt and walk down the street. Yeah, this is my favorite band. Yeah, this is my web page. This is my Twitter handle. Things like that, that you're willing to share with the world. Ultimately, the third problem, which I think is perhaps the most important problem of chip implants, is cloning. Cloning meaning copying. Someone copies my implant, goes home, makes a badge with a similar ID number, and can then use it to go into my office or log into my computer. So, yeah, that problem exists, but it already exists today as well. I mean, anyone can steal my keys or steal a card from my wallet. So the way for us to deal with this is ultimately that we use multi-factor verification. So you use a chip plus PIN code, for example, or use a chip plus password in other contexts, allowing you this two-factor verification that gives you a higher level of security. Okay, here are some examples that me and other friends in sort of the startup community around chip implants are working on. Hopefully we'll see them within a year or so. Not just the digital identification I mentioned, but also putting health sensors under the skin. I'm quite convinced that we'll see these wristbands that people used to have. We'll see them moving under the skin because you can capture much better data from under the skin. Doing payments, not just Bitcoin. I myself, I have used my implant to buy things in vending machines, Snickers and Coke and stuff. And ultimately, I think that there are no technical barriers to doing so. It's more about payment providers accepting this as a platform that is okay for them to have included in their system. And also encrypting the implants and using them for login purposes so that you have control. Your physical self can have control over your digital self, and you can have some better control over all the digital data and information you share online. That, to me, is a very important dimension as a hacker. All right, so if you want to understand technology, it's not enough to listen to some guy who stands around doing PowerPoint slides, right? So I'd like to give you a demonstration. I'd like to welcome Victor from Modus Tattoo and Piercing Studio here in Vilnius. I'd like to welcome Andrew, who is a brave volunteer from the login organization. Welcome, guys. Welcome on stage. And so what's going to happen now? Well, we are going to implant Andrew with a chip implant. Simple as that. Can you see on the cameras? I want to show you guys that this is a pretty simple procedure, that it's quick and easy to make, and also you should understand that this is possible to reverse. So it's not like a tattoo. You get drunk, you get a tattoo, you have it for life. It's a completely reversible thing. It's like taking out a little splinter out of your hand the day you want to take it out. So, hello. How do you feel?
Alive.
Cool.
I'm alive.
Yeah, you are still alive. So, why do you want to do this?
I don't know, I'm actually fascinated. There are a lot of things I can do now with my phone, with my keys, and I do believe that all of the technology can be replaced, as you tell here, and I think it's awesome when you can come to your work naked with no keys, no phone, and you can still open the door. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna rock.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we'll move this a little bit closer. I don't know, can you guys see nicely on the screen, or does someone want to come a little bit closer and see here? It's up to you. Okay, so I understand you have decided to take the implant in the left hand. This is a normal procedure, so you can, for example, have your phone in your right hand. So what is happening now is the Victor is clean. Maybe you want to hold this. Victor is cleaning the area. So, I mean, you can buy these kits online and do the chip implanting at home in your kitchen, if you're a proper biohacker.
You can really get it yourself?
Yeah, you can get them online.
Okay.
You get them from a company called Dangerous Things. Just so you're aware. But I advise against doing this at home in your kitchen if you're not particularly experienced. I again advise engaging people who are professional piercers, who know how to make holes in people's skin, how to make it in a sterile and professional fashion. And yeah, I mean, go ahead, guys, when you're ready for it. Are you ready, Andrew?
Do I have to look?
No, you don't have to look. Take a deep breath, and yeah, here we go. And soon.
I thought it will hurt.
Okay.
That's it.
You're fine? Yeah, good. So you're in very good hands. I mean, Victor and I, we watched some videos on YouTube just before, so.
Thank you. I'm feeling something inside me.
Yeah, so it's getting done. Here we go. Yeah, that's done. So, an applause for the brave volunteer. What was it like?
Well, first I thought like something is getting inside, then I feel something warm here, and I'm alive. That's it.
I'll use my smartphone to put some information on your chip implant in a couple of minutes.
You'll tell me later how to do it, yeah?
So what? You don't have to do it again, no? Brilliant. So, yeah, as we sometimes say jokingly in the biohacker community, happy new birthday. So you have been now perhaps not a human 2.0, but at least 1.1. So there are smarter implants in the world, but this is an exciting start. So, I mean, yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you so much for listening. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I don't know if we're going to have any questions or so. Are we? No, people are shaking hands. This is too much. Okay. That's digest. I'll be available here to chat to you guys whenever you want. Thanks.